Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. I'm Ben, and today we're going to be testing out the Hovbeta 20-inch foldable fat tire electric bike from Hovsco. Huge thanks to them for sending this bike out to me to test for you guys, but that may very well be the last nice thing that I say about this e-bike, because I don't test e-bikes to sell them to you. I test them to see what they're made out of. So today we're going to take this bike out on the road and see what we can get out of it as far as performance. Then we'll hit some slightly bumpier terrain on some gravel roads to see how the bike handles out there. But of course, before we do that, we've got to get it unboxed and assembled, and then we'll go over some of the specs and features. Seems to be packaged pretty nicely. So there's our fairly knobby 20x4 Chaoyang tires on the Hovsco branded rims. It looks like I'm missing a clip here for the wheel reflector, so hopefully that's inside of the packaging somewhere. Yep, there it is. This bike is supposed to weigh 66.4 pounds, so not the heaviest bike. I don't know that I would recommend pulling it out of the box this way, but it's not all that terrible. That paint job is just absolutely amazing. That is like the shiniest, nicest looking red I have ever seen. And those chrome accents really look nice on there. So to power this thing, we've got our 48 volt, 750 watt nominal, 1300 watt peak pseudo motor. And if you're interested, there's the model information. Chainring up front looks fairly small, but we do have some nice protection for the chain on both sides, and that is, I believe, made out of aluminum. 7-speed Shimano cassette on the back here with a Shimano tourney derailleur. No suspension on the rear, so just a hardtail, but up front we do have a bit of suspension with a preload adjustment for the spring on the left and a, I think, compression damping setting on the right that will allow you to, I believe, lock this all the way out. Yep. So a bit of a word of warning before I get to assembling this thing. I am not a certified e-bike mechanic, nor am I a mechanic of any sort. I have put quite a few of these things together, but I am just a content creator, so don't use anything that you see or hear in the video today as professional advice. I would highly recommend following everything in your owner's manual, which does give you some instructions to put this thing together, but it warns that even if you feel qualified to do so and you've got the right tools and everything, you should really still take it to an e-bike mechanic who's certified and knows what they're doing, so they can check it over, make sure everything's safe before you take it out for your first ride. And then of course you still want to check your fasteners after each ride. These things are more than capable of achieving speeds that could definitely do you some harm if something is done wrong or if something goes wrong. So follow your owner's manual and stay safe out there. Let's see what we've got in our fancy Hovsco box here. Kickstand. Next, we've got the derailleur guard here, which they say should really be installed by a professional, because if this does not get torqued down on the rear axle properly, you could not only cause yourself some major damage, but you could also cause the bike's motor some damage. So definitely make sure this gets installed properly. We've got a bag of tools here. Not a bag of tools, a roll of tools. Quick release for the front axle. Some pedals, which I believe are folding pedals. Yep, there we go. And finally, we've got our charger here, which is a Hovsco branded charger. And it looks like we've got an output of 3 amps. And speaking of the charger, might as well get this battery out of here so we can get it charged up. So there's the information on the battery. It's a 15 amp hour, and according to Hovsco, if you're on pedal assist level 1, you're not riding on any hills, and you're a fairly light rider, you should be able to get up to 60 miles per charge max. Looks like we've got a full charge, but of course there might be a little bit of juice missing out of here. So I'm gonna get this plugged into the charger, and then we'll see what we get out of it for range on our test ride. All right, let's get some handlebars on this thing. Just gonna lock the steering neck in place, open that up, align the handlebars. Where in the world is that supposed to be? Oh, in this little clip. We've got slotted 180 millimeter rotors and hydraulic radius calipers. And to actuate those, we've got radius hydraulic master cylinders up here, and they both seem like they're maybe a little bit closer to the bar than what I would like, but it looks like we can actually adjust that on the fly even without a tool by turning these little adjusters. I believe that's all the way out though, so there's not a whole lot of adjustment. So we've got some bolt-on rubbery ergonomic style grips with a sort of odd thumb throttle here, which also apparently needs to be tightened down, it seems. Kind of a simple controller on the left here. Fairly large display. We do have a Shimano 7-speed, but it's not the one that I'm used to seeing. This is sort of an upgraded one with the paddle shifters, and I do prefer this one. It's just sort of a nicer feel. Hovsco branded seat, which does seem actually fairly nice and comfortable, and really is sort of wide for the style of seat that it is, so we'll see how that feels on the test ride. It's got a really nice grab handle on it, which is a feature that I definitely appreciate. We do have a tail light, sort of. It is a battery operated light. It of course just has an illumination feature, so really just a running light or a tail light, not a brake light. A tail light that's wired into the bike's battery is certainly a little bit more convenient, and if it has a brake light function, it's certainly a bit safer, but again, this is better than nothing. Now let's get some pedals installed on this thing, and the left side is of course left-hand threaded. Ooh, yikes, that was loose. I was gonna check this other side, and that also seems fairly loose. Definitely a good idea to have somebody that knows what they're doing take a look at this and make sure that everything is tight. Battery is charged up. I'll get this installed. We'll slide the seat all the way down to the lowest position. I'm 5'10" with a 31-inch inseam height, and I weigh about 150 pounds. And when I stand over the seat of this bike, there is still a little bit of space in between my butt and the seat. And at this height, I think the pedal stroke is going to be doable, but a little bit awkward, probably just fine for an e-bike, but not something that will allow me to put down a whole lot of pedaling power. We can raise the seat up to, looks like there's some hash marks right there. We can also raise the bars up to there. So certainly able to accommodate a much taller rider than I am. I'll put this down to more reasonable height. Pedal stroke should be much better here for my size. As far as folding this bike up, like I showed earlier, you just gotta push the pedals in, angle them down. We've gotta release the catch on the lever on the front here, and then that will fold up as well. Down at the bottom here where the frame splits, we've got to slide the little locking mechanism over, and then that will pop open. Be very careful not to pinch your fingers in there. The cables in here are a little tight, but seems like it does fold up. Turn it a little bit, you can see in that direction. Certainly something that would help you fit it in a smaller spot. To unfold it, you gotta make sure that that doesn't end up in there, and of course don't put anything in there that you're not ready to lose. Get that put back together. That should just cover the little pin in here. As long as the locking mechanism is working properly, it shouldn't go anywhere. Pedals you simply just flip out and they should pop out. Fold the handlebars back up. Clasp just gets pushed back into place. You want to make sure that that locking mechanism ends up in the right space as well. And then after a quick check, it should be ready to go. So with the battery in, if we hold the power button down, we should get the display on. There we go. If we hit the plus button, we've got 5 pedal assist level settings. If we hit that power button again, we get an odometer, and then just back to the trip meter again. If I hold down the headlight button here, we should get an indication up here that the headlight is on. As you can see on the wall there, the headlight is certainly not something that's super bright. That being said though, it is kind of neat looking and certainly is going to help others see you at least a little bit, even if it doesn't help you see all that much. So when I was bench testing this, I noticed that there was some amount of mechanical grinding coming from the back brake here. So I pulled the caliper off, and it looks like we've actually got some marks on the sort of inside of the caliper, most noticeable right here, from the brake rotor sort of rubbing on it, which essentially means that the little spacers that they've got in here, these 2 black ones that would have went here and here, aren't enough to raise the caliper off of the frame and away from the top of the rotor. So I'm going to add 2 of my own little spacers in there to help lift this up a bit. And that should bring it up enough that we don't have any more interference. I did add some more thread locker to these. They do have some pre-applied stuff, but once they've been ran in and back out, I should really add a little bit more. There is some sort of in and out adjustment as well. Apparently these are a one-time use type tool. Let's see if they've got that derailleur set properly. It doesn't jump off on the high end. Seems to go through the gears okay, but does not want to stay on the high end. Now we're getting somewhere. Again, not an e-bike mechanic and not professional advice, but this little adjuster essentially adjusts the amount of slack and can affect how the gears are shifted and when they're shifted and if they're in the right positions on the shift lever. But then these two little adjusters here basically adjust these sort of dead ends of where this thing can be sort of brought to with the cable. I'm going to start off on speed 1 on the Shimano shifter and pedal assist level 0. We'll see what this bike is like to pedal as a bicycle. And I think due to the kind of smaller chainring on the front and the large ring on the back, that is our first gear, this bike is actually incredibly easy to pedal. We'll bump this up to 1. Doesn't really do a whole lot, although I can tell that we do have a torque sensor on here, because when I push a little bit harder on the pedals, then that motor kicks in a bit. We'll leave kind of about the same amount of pressure on the pedals, go up to 2. And you guys may not be able to see the display. I can see it, but it certainly could be, I think, a little bit brighter in the broad day sunlight. But it works, and I'm kind of getting a little bit fast on the pedals, so we'll shift it to speed 7. Seems like even just on pedal assist 4, we still get top speed with this bike unlocked, which is 19. With the bike not unlocked, I guess I should say. You'll notice that if you ride these e-bikes with the torque sensor, in comparison to the cadence sensor, which just measures that the pedals are moving and gives you the same output no matter what, where this modulates depending on how much pressure you're putting on them. Go on the throttle here, which will also take you to about 19. This bike is a little bit awkward when you're standing. I mean, I think it can be done. You just obviously have to have a good amount of balance and skill because the handlebars are so far away from the ground, and because we've got the 20-inch tires on here, it can just feel a little bit awkward when you move the center of gravity up. So I've shifted back down to first gear on the pedals. We will turn this back on and put it all the way up to pedal assist level 5. Again, I don't know how well you guys can see this. Hopefully you can see it a little bit. I'll try to keep an eye on it and call out when we hit 20. I will give it some throttle and go through the gears as quick as I can while pedaling to see how fast we get up to top speed of 19 or 20. Ready, go! Definitely a very quick takeoff. And yeah, we're already there. I didn't even get to look at it yet. We're doing 22. Now up at 20 miles an hour, this is a good pedaling pace if you're looking for exercise, but as far as just a nice cruise, this is really a little bit faster than I would like to be pedaling. And I mean, I suppose I would want to unlock it to 28, and it's nice to have that ability to do that, but I mean, if you're just gonna want to get on this and pedal it 19 miles an hour at this pace, I mean, I think it's just fine as is. But honestly, I would prefer a slightly bigger chain ring at the front because that would bring the pedal speed down a bit. Of course, you can just hit the throttle on the pavement, sitting down. This bike is certainly going to be different than any mountain bike or anything that you've ridden, just because of the sort of odd geometry with the high bars, the low frame, and the 20-inch wheels. But it is, I think, a pretty decent bike to cruise on, and certainly doable. We do have a little bit of a power readout. It shows we're almost to the top bar when I put it all the way down. Let's see how the brakes work. Ready? Brake! Ooh! Yeah, definitely really, really pretty nice brakes on here. let's see how this thing does on the gravel. And of course, gotta do our all-important wheelie test. Whoop. And this pseudo motor on here certainly is torquey. Woo! We don't even need the pedals. So definitely a pretty powerful bike, and the suspension actually feels pretty decent so far. But let's see how this actually handles on the gravel here. Motor makes a little bit of noise, but not too much, and it's certainly not annoying. I have not noticed that the brakes or anything else has picked up any noise. Sometimes that can happen during these rides. Sometimes it's more towards the end. Hopefully this one stays quiet. It seems like most of the components are pretty high quality. Pedaling this at 17 miles an hour on the gravel really doesn't feel bad. And again, this is a hardtail. I did set the tires to just about 10 psi front and back, so that helps kind of absorb some of the impact a little bit. I honestly am really kind of liking this bike. I think it looks just awesome. I love that paint. The basically broomstick straight handlebars I think might eventually put a bit of a strain on your wrists, but for me anyways, at my size, the distance between the seat and the bars seems like a pretty good spacing. It feels like it fits me pretty well ergonomically. The seat, I mean, seems squishy, but I think just doesn't quite have enough cushion to really be what I would call comfortable. It certainly works. And I suppose I should mention actually that, I guess a couple things. I stuck this mirror on. These are available on Amazon. I would highly recommend a mirror anytime you go out anywhere on a bike. People are not going to be looking out for you, so you definitely need to be looking out for yourself. The other thing that I noticed is that even though I tightened my throttle down here, it still moves incredibly easy, and that's because the bracket on the bottom side where it attaches here, I think it must have gotten busted either when it was installed at the factory or during shipping or something. So it's a little bit slippery. Seems like it still works. Of course, if I keep a finger or a hand on the brake, either the front or the rear, it won't give me any power because that cuts the motor. Like I mentioned, standing up, it can feel a little squirrely, but when seated, as long as you kind of get acquainted with what you're on, it really feels pretty darn good. And that suspension up front honestly seems to do, well, pretty well out here. I think partially it's the fact that the rake on here, which is essentially the sort of angle that the forks are stuck out at from a line drawn straight up and down in the air, is, well, not drastic, but certainly good for off-road riding and good for stability. A more tucked in rake is a little bit better for sort of quick handling, but on a bike like this, you don't really want that. So honestly, I think that rake is, I would say, just about perfect. There's a deer up there. Hello, deer. Let's see what this hill. We'll start off in 7th gear. Oh, wow. That's the other nice thing about these torque sensors is basically as soon as you press on the pedals, you should really be covering the brakes. As soon as you press on them, you just basically immediately get power. So we've got 23 miles on the odometer and still 3 bars of battery left. Which for a 15 amp hour battery is really pretty impressive, honestly, especially with how much power you get out of that motor. And honestly, I don't think that I would recommend this to someone who's new to e-bikes or powered two-wheel vehicles. But that being said, I personally really enjoy the amount of power that this thing has, and I really thought this was a fun bike to ride. If you guys have decided that this is something that you need in your life, I can put an affiliate link for it down in the description and in the top pinned comment, along with a discount code. If you guys use that, it doesn't cost you anything extra. The discount code should save you a few bucks. But the affiliate link helps me continue to make videos like this because I make a small commission when you use those. I also have links to all the other products that I was using in the video. Absolutely no pressure on any of it. But huge thanks to any of you guys that have been using those affiliate links. They are quite literally one of the very few things that allows me to keep doing this. And I absolutely love getting out there and testing these things. Doesn't matter what you've got, make sure you get out and enjoy this beautiful world that God created. Any chance you get, if you can't do it right now, here's more videos to check out. In the meantime, take care, stay safe, stay swanky, and we'll catch you on the next one.